Diversity. Democrats are obsessed with it. Some Republicans are obsessed with it. Does it matter? Should you actually care? The Judiciary Committee had impeachment hearings today, and let me tell you, it didn't go well for Democrats. Finally, a prank video you are going to want to stick around for. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. Well, it wasn't exactly earth-shattering news when Kamala Harris dropped out of the race for the Democrats yesterday. I mean, everybody had to kind of pretend that, it's a major shakeup. Kamala Harris wasn't doing anything. But Democrats do have a problem, according to them, and it's a diversity problem. Now, do they actually have this problem? Is this a problem that exists? Is this a problem that you should actually care about? I feel much differently about this issue, about the issue of color, than other people do. We'll get to my feelings on it in a second. But of course, people like Cory Booker seem to think skin color is, really important. Here's Cory Booker.
Well, let me just say, Kamala, before she was a senator, presidential candidate, she was my friend, she was my sister. And so today I'm a little angry, I have to say, that we started with one of the most diverse fields in our history, giving people pride. And it's a damn shame now that the only African-American woman in this race who has been speaking to issues that need to be brought up is now no longer in it. And we're spiraling towards a debate stage that potentially, we're still fighting to get on it, but could have 6 people with no diversity whatsoever. The way this is shaping up, especially with the rules of the DNC, it is preferencing millionaires and billionaires and a lot of other things that don't ever translate into viability in Iowa.
Okay, well, there's the genius known as Cory Booker. Clearly, he thinks the field is not diverse enough, and he's mad that a black woman dropped out. Of course, Julian Castro, for some mysterious reason, also thinks diversity is super, super important. Here he is.
What we're staring at is a DNC debate stage in a few days with no people of color on it. That does not reflect the diversity of our party or of our country. And we need to do better than that.
Okay, now let us ask ourselves, does this actually matter? Should this actually matter? No, it should not. There's this bizarre thing that exists out there, and it's rampant in the Democrat Party, and I'm watching it seep into the Republican Party, and I don't like it at all. I understand this is going to be controversial. Tough. It's my show, not anybody else's show. Why does color matter? I don't care if the whole field is white. I don't care if the whole field is black. I don't care if the whole field is green. I don't care what the whole field is. It's what people's beliefs are and what people will do that actually matters. How in the world is that actually radical these days? But there are people out there, and a lot of them are Democrats, and I'll caution you again, some of them are Republicans, who look at a field. They'll see a picture. You see this all the time, and they start counting. Well, let me see that. Gosh, there's 2 black people, but I mean, there's 4 white people. There's only 1 Asian. Why are half the people not women? That is how some people view the world. And it's not just some anymore. That's how a lot of people view the world. And I am telling you this right now, it's unhealthy. If you view the world in that way, you need to adjust your thinking. It is unhealthy. Take the good from people, ignore the skin color part. And I'm not doing one of these namby-pamby, coexist bumper sticker things. I don't see color. I see color. I see it everywhere. I'm not blind. I know when somebody's black. I know when somebody's Latino. I know when somebody's a man. I know when somebody's a woman. Actually, not so much these days, but you get what I'm saying. I do see color. It's fine to see color. But to purposely seek it out, I find that disgusting. I find it repulsive, and I see it everywhere. And you know what? Republicans are starting to do this way too much for my blood, too. I see it all the time from these fancy schmancy Republicans, always in D.C. or New York, Well, I really think we need more black candidates. Why? I mean, if we get one, that's fine. I don't care what color he is. I think we need more limited government candidates. I don't care if they're a bunch of pygmies. As long as they're limited government candidates, that's really what matters. Well, I really think the field needs to be represented by more women. Why? Is there some extra magic conveyed on women? No, we're trying to play Democrat loser victim politics games, and I absolutely despise it. Stop seeking out specific colors, specific genders. Start seeking out people who believe in limited government. And that's not exactly a radical statement. That's not a black or white statement. I mean, let's not forget what Martin Luther King Jr. once so famously said, quote, I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Imagine that. We're supposed to be colorblind, so what? We're supposed to actually care about values. We're supposed to care about what people represent. And this country has become obsessed with this idea of diversity. And you know what? There's nothing worse than seeking out diversity. You know what diversity is? It's a nice byproduct you can maybe pat your buddy on the back about at the end of the day. It should never, ever, 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 ever be what you seek. I can't fathom that way of thinking. And you know what else? I'll tell you something, people. It's rotting out our military as well. You ready to be super offended? Here it comes. Go ahead and do your recording and so you can send me all the hate mail. I live for it anyway. Why do we have women on United States Navy ships? Does that make you mad? Sorry. What purpose do they serve? I'll tell you what's actually happening because you can find, go ahead, look it up. You'll find very few articles about this, although it's a reality. People in the fleet will tell you this. How do you think it's going to go when you take a bunch of young men, late teens, early 20s, and you stuff them on a massive Navy vessel with a bunch of young women, late teens, early 20s? They're playing naked twister before they leave the harbor. Half the women are getting pregnant on deployment. It's affecting unit readiness. We now have extra drama on ships where there shouldn't be. Look into some of those crashes the Navy has had over the past couple of years. Yeah, when you actually look into the details, it was onboard soap opera stuff that's causing it. You know why this happened? Because we looked at the fleet and we thought, we need to be more gender inclusive. No, we don't. I'm not saying women don't have any purpose in the Navy. That would be ridiculous. They don't have any purpose integrated on a ship because it brings soap opera drama that is, working against the mission of the United States Navy. Diversity is not something you should ever seek out, not in your boardroom, not on your naval ship, and not in your candidates anyway. And I'll tell you something. I have this theory, and it's just a theory. I don't really think Democrat primary voters care that much about diversity anyway. I think the candidates feel like they have to stand up there and talk about diversity this and black this and woman this and Hispanic that. I mean, do the voters actually care? All the candidates that are left on the debate stage, you can sit and say, well, they're all white. Well, to get on the debate stage, you have to poll well with Democrat primary voters. Clearly, they're not that worried about color. Clearly, they just want whoever's the commie is going to promise them the most stuff, and that's what they're getting. Maybe people don't care near as much as corporations and politicians think they do. Now, one quick change of pace here I should point out. I saw this yesterday. I don't want to belabor the point, but I saw Pete Buttigieg. I don't remember when he said it. I think it was yesterday. It might have been the day before. Listen to this.
Anyone who supported this president is, at best, looking the other way on racism, at best.
For a party that's supposed to be tolerant, for a party that's supposed to be diverse, for a party that's supposed to be accepting, I find this to be the most bizarre political thing I've ever seen in my life. This 3-year trend from the Democrat Media Alliance of specifically talking down to Trump voters. You're a racist. You're a Nazi. The MAGA hat is the new Klan hat. Ladies and gentlemen, politicians have always talked down, or thought down, I should say, about voters who oppose them. That's not new. You get voted against, you talk about it with your wife, your campaign staff, behind closed doors. But politicians throughout history have always been smart enough to realize I probably shouldn't trash them to their face, especially when I need somebody to switch over. But the Democrat Party has become so committed to shaming this and shaming that, and you should be ashamed, and you should be embarrassed, that now they routinely, and the media takes part in this too, they routinely scold votes that they need. You're not getting elected president in the year 2020 as a Democrat unless people who voted for Trump turn around and vote for you, meaning it's probably not a great idea to say, oh, you're all a bunch of racists. Nevertheless, see if you can scold your way into the White House, Democrats. Let me know how that works out for you. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. Coming up next, Rob Smith joins us. Hang on. Joining me now to discuss diversity and if diversity is actually important, America's favorite black, gay, veteran Republican, Rob Smith with Turning Point USA. Rob, I don't care about diversity. Does that make me weird? Does it make me a bad person? I saw all the Democrats screaming about, we lack diversity now, we lack diversity now. I mean, diversity is fine, but when did the country become so obsessed with this fact of skin color or gender or sexual preference or whatever it may be? I feel like people try to force this too much instead of just caring about liberty.
Well, here's the thing. We all should care about diversity, but we should be caring about intellectual diversity, right? So the left and the Democrats, they have this idea that diversity means a bunch of people with different sexual orientations and genders and skin colors, but that think exactly the same. And I think that this is where they lose people. And they have really kind of gone down the whole identity politics rabbit hole in that way. And I think it's really doing them a major disservice. And it's doing them a major disservice that there is no intellectual diversity on the left. That's why cancel culture is so prominent. That's why they are so quick to push everybody out from the left that doesn't think the way that they think that they're supposed to think. That's why I was excommunicated from the left. That's a big reason why I came out as a conservative Republican.
Tell me about that really quickly, because boy, did you just nail it. There is no intellectual diversity at all. I mean, that is 100% right. Tell me about this conversion you had from being a leftist.
Yeah. So the conversion I had from a leftist was basically during the 2015, the run up to the 2016 election. Number one, I just despised Hillary Clinton. I was not a Hillary Clinton fan. And also, I started feeling like as a black man, as a gay man, I was just being pandered to by the left. There was this assumption that I was supposed to think the way that they wanted me to think because I was on the left. And when I started seeing the pandering to the left from an African-American standpoint, when I started seeing, by the way, after the post-Orlando terrorist attack where a radical Islamic terrorist killed 49 gays and lesbians in a gay nightclub in Orlando, and the left did nothing. They said nothing. They were so afraid to not be PC that they couldn't call it out for what it is. And I started to think, why am I just on the left just because I'm black and gay? I wanted to start thinking about the issues and not thinking with my skin color, with my sexual orientation. So I did not vote in the 2016 election. I'm very open about that. And I was as afraid as everybody else on the left was at the specter of a Donald Trump presidency. But a year and a half into it, I looked at my taxes. I looked at the world. I looked at things that he was doing for immigration. In terms of securing the border. I looked at things that were going on for the economy, and I looked at so much movement within the African-American community from an economic standpoint. That was when my conversion was clear. That was when I decided that the left did not have my principles anymore. This is not how I identify anymore. And I identify more with conservative-leaning beliefs, with Republican beliefs and policies than I ever did with the left. And it doesn't matter that I'm black or gay or veteran or whatever. What matters is the ideas. And when I say that I'm America's favorite black gay Republican, it's turning identity politics on its head. So the point is that it doesn't matter that I am any of these things. What matters is my beliefs. And those things are not supposed to dictate my beliefs.
Rob, what is the sense you do get to however much you discuss this with people in the black community, the support for Donald Trump? And the reason I ask is, again, not because I care about diversity. I do care about voting blocks, though. And I know if Donald Trump continues to snap up at least any kind of a significant percentage of black voters, the Democrats are finished nationally. They're just finished. So is there movement, or is this some kind of conservative wishful thinking of, hey, we're going to get 15%?
Well, I really do not believe that it's wishful thinking. And when you look at the policies, and when you look at the fact that this administration and this president has made such a push for African-American voters, and it's not pie in the sky, I'm going to promise you this, I'm going to promise you that. This is what I have done. Look at what I have done. And when you talk to people, I get my haircut at a black barbershop in Brooklyn. When you get out into the community, people are starting to realize what's going on. They see them making more money. The business owners see these policies that are more open to them creating businesses and creating more employees and creating more work. And I think that people are starting to see this. And I think, honestly, when you look at the left, Democrats need upwards of 90% of African American votes to remain viable as a national voting, as a national party. They just do. And I don't think that they're going to get that in 2020. They didn't get that in 2016 because people stayed home. But I believe that in 2020, I don't think that 12 to 15% of the Black vote for this president is that pie in the sky. Now, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of polls that just came out, two polls in particular. One had them at 34% approval for African Americans, one had them at 34.5%. I think that that's a little pie in the sky. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be 30, 40, 50% Black Americans voting for Trump. But I do believe that 12 to 15% is very realistic. And this administration, with the Black Voices for Trump coalition, with people like me, like Katrina Pearson, so many other prominent African-American Republicans really speaking out and taking those hits, so to speak, it makes other Black people who may not feel as comfortable being as visible as we are, comfortable enough to either openly support the president or support him in the privacy of the voting booth, which is basically, that's all we need.
I think you're discounting, Rob, how important it is to Black Americans that Joe Biden got up there and told a story about confronting Corn Pop.
Corn Pop. Look, Joe Biden is Corn Pop. He's a bad man. Joe Biden is literally like, I believe that he's the Hillary Clinton of 2020. He is a candidate that nobody really wants, that people are not excited about, that younger Black millennials are certainly not going for. I believe that if Joe Biden's at the top of the ticket, even though I do believe that he will be, I still believe that Joe Biden will be at the top of the ticket for the Democrats. I believe that younger Black millennials will not vote for him. And the reason that I say I believe that he's going to be at the top of the ticket is because the road to the Democratic nomination really does still go through older Black voters in the South. These are these Super Tuesday states, Georgia, South Carolina, et cetera. And these people are going to vote for old Sleepy Joe because they feel comfortable with Joe Biden, because he was the vice president to America's first Black president, and that means something to them. So I do believe that he will get the nomination. People will not show up for Joe Biden. He's not that guy.
All right, I'm going to ask you one final question, and I want you to promise you're not going to crawl through the TV and slap me for even asking it. But I always found this. I try to take a step back and analyze the Democrat field as impartially as I can, even though I despise Democrats. Why has Cory Booker never caught on? Why is he not blown up bigger? I always looked at Cory Booker, and yeah, he's a big goober. I get that. But I always thought he was a guy who actually had some charisma and would make some noise, and he just never has. Why?
I mean, first of all, I'm not going to reach out on the TV and slap you for questioning Cory Booker. I'm not a fan at all. If you've seen the viral video that I did for Turning Point, where I went up to all the candidates and asked them for cash reparations, I had an interaction with Cory Booker. Cory Booker doesn't have it. Cory Booker has never had it. Cory Booker never will have it. He's not a leader. He's not interesting. He's not somebody that moves voters. And I think going back to the identity politics, like, Jesse, if the most interesting thing about me was that I was Black, we wouldn't be talking to each other, right? I wouldn't have this platform. I wouldn't have any of this. With Cory Booker, he thinks that he truly believes that being Black is the most interesting thing about him. And you take that away, you have a really, really bland milquetoast candidate. And diversity points just aren't enough. And Cory Booker really does not connect with people. He doesn't connect with crowds. He doesn't connect with the electorates. And by the way, this man coming from the leadership position that he had in Newark, which is one of the many historically Black cities in America that are in serious trouble, that have been destroyed by Democrats, doesn't look good. So that's what's wrong with Cory Booker. And I predict that he will be the next one to drop out.
Rob Smith, Turning Point USA's very own Rob Smith, thank you so much for giving us some time today, bud.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.
Coming up, the Judiciary Committee had impeachment hearings today, and you're going to want to stick around. Hang on. Okay, impeachment hearing today. Let me clarify, just giving you a quick little background in case you were unclear. The House of Representatives is made up of different committees: Ways and Means Committee, Intelligence Committee, Judiciary Committee. There's a whole bunch of committees. We have currently Adam Schiff is the head of the Intelligence Committee. Jerry Nadler is the head of the Judiciary Committee. Those are powerful committees. Some committees are considered to be powerful, some are not. The rumor is out of Washington, D.C., from people I know and trust, that they know Nancy Pelosi is on her way out, which if you've seen her slur through a press conference in the past 2 years, you know she's obviously on her way out. Jerry Nadler wants to be Speaker of the House. Adam Schiff wants to be Speaker of the House. Adam Schiff got to have his public show trial impeachment hearing. We've all saw how bad those went. Now, Jerry Nadler is going to take his turn. You see, once you decide you're going to launch an impeachment inquiry, essentially any head of any committee can say, we're going to do our own impeachment inquiry. Well, Jerry Nadler's not going to be left on the sidelines, so he's going to jump into this whole thing. They actually brought 4 legal scholars out today to try to explain to the American people why this is super important, which, look, if you already have to explain it, you lost. That's just the way it works. If you have to explain it, you lost. You know, they say if you go on a date with a woman, she knows within the first 30 seconds if she's into you or not. You can't talk your way into it after that. That's kind of how these public show trials work too. The public is either interested or they're not, and they're not interested. But be that as it may, Jerry Nadler apparently disagrees with Jerry Nadler, because at one point in time, Jerry Nadler was pretty emphatic about the fact that if you're going to impeach, it should be bipartisan.
There must never be a narrowly voted impeachment or an impeachment substantially supported by one of our major political parties and largely opposed by the other. Such an impeachment would lack legitimacy, would produce divisiveness and bitterness in our politics for years to come, and will call into question the very legitimacy of our political institutions.
How about that? And you know what's funny is old Jerry Nadler, bigger Jerry Nadler, he was right. He's right. The American people are never going to accept an impeachment. They're never going to, feel a strong way about impeachment unless both parties can look at it and be like, okay, that's impeachable. I mean, we have this, and this. We've got to impeach the guy. Otherwise, it just looks political. And that's what it is. It's political, and everybody knows that. So we have people like Andy Biggs today, Representative Biggs. He asked Jerry Nadler, can we actually just clarify the rules? You see, each committee head sets their own rules for how that hearing is going to go, which means Nadler sat down and decided these are going to be the rules and these are going to be the rules. Well, Schiff and Nadler have really been running these things like the Wild West, and Nadler didn't really feel like he had to tell anybody.
So I'm hoping you can explain to us what objections may be made under this clause, and if you intend to use the federal rules of evidence.
The gentleman will suspend. That is not a proper parliamentary inquiry.
It is a proper.
It is not a proper parliamentary.
I stated a rule. I stated
a rule, Mr. Chairman. You can ignore it and not answer it, but you can't just say it's not a proper.
I'm asking for the application of the rule for an explanation, Mr. Chairman.
Will
I don't know how that's not parliamentary.
We will apply the rules. Period.
You won't help us understand that? There's no clarity there.
What a bunch of children. I mean, what a bunch of children. And Nadler always comes off this way. You all remember I think it was Candace Owens was giving testimony in front of Nadler, and he gave an objection and made himself look like an idiot, and then he just sulked there and move on. Democrats, they're normally better at this, and as much as I hate to give them any advice, it's a television show. You can have it's not by the procedural rules, and we're going to recognize the gentleman. I mean, that's fine. You can do all that stuff. You can nerd out on the law stuff all you want. This is a television show. It is specifically aimed at swing state independent voters who can be swung either way. You're losing them. Don't have an angry little elf up there who can't even explain things and has no charisma whatsoever. Now, Representative Collins, well, he pretty much nailed what this whole thing's about.
Also talk about the founders. What's interesting is that the chairman talked a lot about the founders from the quotes, and again, this is why we have the hearing, about the founders being concerned about foreign influence, but what he also didn't quote was the founders being really, really concerned about political impeachment. Because you just don't like the guy. You haven't liked him since November of 2016. The chairman has talked about impeachment since last year when he was elected chairman, 2 years ago, November 6th, 17th, before he's even sworn in as chairman. So don't tell me this is about new evidence and new things and new stuff. We may have a new hearing room, we may have new mics, and we may have chairs that aren't comfortable, but this is nothing new, folks. This is sad.
That's right. And I want to do a quick thought experiment with you here very briefly. Think back if the Democrats had just done normal politics for the last 3 years. Of the Democrat Media Alliance, of course they're going to trash Trump and oppose him and things like that. But what if there was no lame attempt at Russian collusion? What if there was no overturn the election, impeach talk for the last 3 years? Do you think maybe, just maybe, the American people might have a little bit more of an appetite for this impeachment hearing if that isn't all they've heard for the last 3 years? Of course they would. People have tuned out. They've turned it off. They get the game now. Yes, everything's a new bombshell. Yes, everything is, this is the beginning of the end. We've heard these same sayings for so long. Everybody gets what it is. Democrats are still mad about 2016. And I warned long time ago that this was going to bite them, and it was going to bite them very, very badly, because you can pout so long that now you're pouting into an important phase. They're still pouting about 2016. Yeah, we're less than a year away from the next presidential election. You should be messaging. You should be fundraising. You should be out there knocking on doors. You should be winning over swing voters. 2016 has come, and 2016 has gone. Professor Turley gave some pretty stinging testimony today, at least stinging for Democrats. And I want you to keep in mind, I believe this man is a registered Democrat, and he really brought up something important about new rules.
This would be the first impeachment in history where there would be considerable debate and, in my view, not compelling evidence of the commission of a crime. Second is the abbreviated period of this investigation, which is problematic and puzzling. This is a facially incomplete and inadequate record in order to impeach a president. To impeach a president on this record would expose every future president to the same type of inchoate impeachment.
He's right. And you know what? I think we have already crossed the Rubicon there. That's a little Julius Caesar reference for you. No big deal. I went to community college. The bottom line is, if you can do this, if you can have a public show trial like this and launch an impeachment inquiry with really nothing, with smoke and mirrors, with hearsay, well, I heard from a guy who heard from a guy, or no, here's what I think he really meant with the transcript we can all read. Once you get to that point, impeach them all, baby. I've already announced, look, if this is what we're going to do, sometimes mutually assured destruction is the only way forward. I think the Republican Party should come out right now and say, we are impeaching the next Democrat president. And people will freak out. You can't do that. Why? Hey, these are the new rules. Welcome to the Thunderdome. Now, if there's one lesson you should take from me, it's that everybody hates feminists. Nobody likes a feminist. Even other feminists don't want to be around other feminists. Why? Because bitterness is awful. Whether it be from a man, from a woman, bitterness seeps out of your pores, and nobody wants to be in the presence of it. Now, remember what I told you just a little bit earlier about how this is a television show? How you don't want Jerry Nadler up there, being the little angry troll? This is a television show. You're trying to win over swing voters. So what is the last freaking thing you should put on the television set for this television show? How about a nasty Marxist professor? Listen to this person. Oh.
Kings could do no wrong because the king's word was law. And contrary to what President Trump has said, Article 2 does not give him the power to do anything he wants. And I'll just give you one example that shows you the difference between him and a king, which is the Constitution says there can be no titles of nobility. So while the president can name his son Baron, he can't make him a baron.
Imagine having to hear that voice of that harpy every single day. Nice little cheap shot at the president's son. That's the way to keep it classy. That's one. Two, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to make a joke, if you're going to rehearse a joke, which she clearly rehearsed that in front of the mirror, make dang sure it's funny. And if you're going to rehearse the joke, don't rehearse it in front of your nasty liberal hag professor friends, because they're going to get a good snicker. Oh, that's going to kill. And the rest of the country was like, oh, that was tough to listen to. Coming up next, senior legal advisor to the President of the United States, Jenna Ellis, joins us. Hang on. Joining me now, special treat for us, senior legal advisor to the President, Jenna Ellis, joins me. Jenna, I went to community college. I don't understand half of these fancy legal terms they're using in all the impeachment stuff today, so I'm going to ask you some very basic things, and I don't want you to laugh me off the television set. I look at these things, and I don't see anything...
No, sounds good.
I don't see anything that's evidence. I don't see anything that's concrete, but I don't want to speak out of turn and just be a Republican hack and be like the Democrats have nothing. Honestly, tell me, is there something here that I'm missing during these impeachment hearings?
Not at all. And I think that Representative Matt Gaetz put it perfectly when he asked, is there anyone on this panel, raise your hand if you have any information or any of a material fact, any personal knowledge of a material fact in Adam Schiff's report. And it was just dead. And he said, let the record reflect, not one person is raising their hand. Why do you have to have 4 constitutional law attorneys to come and try to back end show that there is some kind of impeachable offense when everyone knows that the Democrats have not proven their case? This is a complete Schiff show. And this is an impeachment circus that is unconstitutional, and there is no basis in law or fact. We don't need a lot of highfalutin, pious, constitutional law attorneys that come in and try to redefine and manipulate all of these terms just for the Democrats' purpose.
Jenna, break down for me why the Democrats would continue to push this instead of dropping it. And I understand this is more of a political question than a legal one, but I don't understand. Look, just someone on the outside looking in, why not let all this go? This looks extremely ineffective. Many of these witnesses, like that Professor Carlin today, come across as so unlikable and actually hurt their cause. Why not just let this go and walk away and focus on the 2020 election? It doesn't look like they're going to get anything.
Yeah, I would love for Nancy Pelosi to answer that question, because she is clearly going against her word to the American people that she would only pursue this in the House if it was bipartisan. Clearly, this is just one party that is pursuing this, and the Democrats. And, this actually goes to the economic principle of sunken costs, which I'll be the professor a little bit here to say that that's when someone has invested so much and they've lost so much, but they keep thinking, if I just invest a little bit more, then I'll get a return because I don't want to lose everything I've invested so far. And that's what the Democrats are doing here. They have invested so much in this hashtag resistance since 2016 and since even before that. I mean, they have been trying to take down then candidate Trump, then President-elect Trump, and then President Trump over the last 3.5 years. And they are just continuing to sink their investment. And now they are not willing to pull back and say, you know what, we don't have anything here. What Nancy Pelosi did not count on was that President Trump would release the transcript the day after she announced this impeachment inquiry and this absolute circus. And the fact that he did that, well, that may not set a good precedent for future presidents. I mean, and he was reluctant to do that, and he said that very clearly. What choice did he have? And that was very, very smart to release that so that the American people could see for ourselves. There's absolutely nothing to this. President sets foreign policy, and that was absolutely in legal and constitutional terms a perfect phone call. So I would love for Nancy Pelosi to answer that question. Why are the Democrats pursuing this when this is setting such a bad precedent for our country? And I'll tell you one other thing quickly, Jesse. When you see how much the Democrats absolutely do not care about anyone's due process, they don't care about the rights of Rudy Giuliani, they don't care about the rights of President Trump, they don't care about the rights of Devin Nunes here. I mean, all of these, the phone calls that they're seeing from Verizon. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. When they don't care about the rights of the American people, that means this is so high profile, that means they're not going to care about your rights or my rights. And on that basis alone, no American who is a lover of freedom and liberty and the protections that our Constitution is actually required to protect in this country should ever vote Democrat again.
I love that, by the way. I love that sunken cost analogy. I'm 100% going to steal that for myself and act like I came up with it. When it comes to Rudy, what rights of his are they actually violating? Because I've seen some pretty, what looks like alarming things out of that today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, not only confidentiality, his rights of an American citizen to make sure that, he doesn't have anything that's personal that comes out absent a subpoena or a court order, that his personal rights aren't violated. But then you actually have President Trump as a citizen who has every right to hire personal counsel. I mean, used to have attorney-client privilege sacrosanct in this country to make sure that individual citizens could confer with counsel. I mean, I've been a prosecutor, I've been a defense attorney, I've been a personal attorney in various capacities. And for that privilege to simply just be pierced without a court order and just at the whim of Congress, that is not congressional oversight. That is not constitutional. That is not legal. And that should scare every American that the Democrats are simply abusing their power. And I think that Jonathan Turley, the only committed originalist that was testifying today, I think he put it very well that the Democrats here are abusing their power. They're the ones, if they want to say this is high crimes and misdemeanors, they're actually guilty of the very thing that they're accusing President Trump of.
What's President Trump's state of mind like? And I asked it for this reason. It's stressful enough to be president of the United States of America, not that I'm ever going to find out, but to have people coming after you, trying to impeach you, trying to overturn an election for 3 years, and now you have this sham impeachment inquiry, I would be absolutely pulling my hair out and losing my mind. I don't know how he's not losing his mind, or is he?
Well, President Trump is so resilient, and I really think that out of anyone who could be president under these types of conditions with such opposition, such personal hostility, not only from the opposition party, but also from the mainstream media that relentlessly attacks him and relentlessly attacks his family, he is showing such amazing resilience because he actually cares about the American people, and he is getting so much done in spite of this. And so, I mean, I just respect how much he has not just gone on the defensive in the sense of not being willing to just cave to the whim of this oppressive majority party in the House. And he is certainly making sure that he is standing firm, but he is actually going out there every day and winning on behalf of the American people. I mean, he has done so much when we talk about putting originalists on the court, when we're talking about the greatest economy, the lowest unemployment rate. I mean, so many things in terms of actual policy that we could be talking about. And then yet, you have this impeachment scam that's all that the mainstream media is talking about, that is absolutely unprecedented, it's unconstitutional, and we're talking about the greatest conservative president, I think, in modern American history being impeached and joining the ranks of Clinton and Nixon over absolutely nothing, over actually good governing, doing what the American people asked him to do. This is absolutely absurd. And so I am very proud of the president for how much he has spoken into the media, how much he's saying this is unfair, but at the same time, how much poise and just good nature and good humor he's showing by going to his rallies, being so proud to be an American and actually fighting on behalf of you and me, because the Democrats certainly won't.
Senior legal advisor to the president, Jenna Ellis, thank you so much for dropping some knowledge on us today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Jesse.
Everybody loves a good prank video. I have one you're going to want to see. Hang on. Look, everybody loves a good prank video, and it's been a heavy show today. We've talked about diversity and race and impeachment hearings and everything else. So allow us to get completely non-political for a minute. You just kick back and enjoy this. Oh, gosh. You know what? You've got to appreciate the lady who goes after them. Oh, that's just about as good as it gets. All right, that's enough. Look, the only thing that would have made that video any funnier was the guy who was walking with his girl. When he gets handed the ball, if he'd have saw the guys come running around the corner and hand his ball to the girlfriend. But that didn't happen. Life can't be perfect. All right, that's all for I'm Right today. We will be back and better than ever tomorrow. I'll see you then.